friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will be the greatest enemy. Text 7. Chitatmana prashantasya paramatma samadhitaha sitoshna sukha dukkeshu tatamana pamanayo. Translation. For one who has conquered the mind, the supersoul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. Text 8. Jnana vijnana triptatma hutashto vijitindriya yukta it yuchate yogi samalostras makanchanaha. Translation. A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. Text 9. Surin mitrar yudeshina madhyasta deva shabandhushu sad ushv api cha papeshu samabudhir vishishyate. Translation. A person is said to be still further advanced when he regards all, the honest well-wisher, friends and enemies, the envious, the pious, the sinner, and those who are indifferent and impartial, with an equal mind. Text 10. Yogi yunjita satattam atmanam rahisa shtitaha ekaki yata chitratma nirashir aparigraha. Translation. A transcendentalist should always try to concentrate his mind on the Supreme Self. He should live alone in a secluded place and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness. Texts 11 through 12. Shuchau deshe pratishtapya stiram asanam atmanaham nachuchritam nachicham chailagjina kushotaram tatra kagramana kritva yata chitindriya kriya upavishya sene yunjad yogam atma vishuddhaye. Translation. To practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with a deerskin and a soft cloth. The seat should neither be too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and should practice yoga by controlling the mind and the senses, purifying the heart and fixing the mind on one point. Text 13 through 14. Samam kaya shiro grivam darayan achalam sthirya sampreksha nasika gram svam dishaschana valokayan prashantatma vigata bir brahmachari vrata stitaha manasam yamya machchito yukta ashita matparaha. Translation. One should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. Text 15. Yunjan evam sadatmanam yogi niyata manasaha shantim nirvana paramam matsamstam adhigachati. Text 15. Translation. Thus practicing control of the body, mind, and activities, the mystic transcendentalist attains to the kingdom of God or the abode of Krishna by cessation of material existence. Text 16. Natyashnatas tu yogo nachaikantam anashtaham Nachati svapna shri lasya jagrato naiva charjuna. Translation. There's no possibility one's becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much, or does not sleep enough. And go back to text 6. And I'll read the translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Srila Prabhupada Jai. For translation, for him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will be the greatest enemy. Purport. The purpose of practicing Eightfold Yoga is to control the mind in order to make it a friend in discharging the human mission. Unless the mind is controlled, the practice of yoga, for show, is simply a waste of time. One who cannot control his mind lives always with the greatest enemy, and thus his life and its mission are spoiled. The constitutional position of the living entity is to carry out the order of the superior. As long as one's mind remains an unconquered enemy, one has to serve the dictations of lust, anger, avarice, illusion, etc. But when the mind is conquered, one voluntarily agrees to abide by the dictation of the personality of Godhead, who is situated within the heart of everyone as Paramatma. Real yoga practice entails meeting the Paramatma within the heart and then following his dictation. For one who takes to Krishna consciousness directly, perfect surrender to the dictation of the Lord follows automatically. Super soul is in the heart of every living entity and guiding them. And so it's very nice if we can meditate on that a little bit and think about like a flock of birds, or how they will all of a sudden they will all turn at the same time, or a school of fish. They seem to have almost a unified mind, and that's super soul guiding them. And he speaks in this purport of lust being such an enemy. That's so many things are coming out of this lust, anger and greed and envy. And so if we can curb this lust, whether it be lust for material possessions or lusty sensual thoughts, we have to curb this and try to control the mind. Similar to if you get, maybe when you were younger, you got a new puppy or something, and with a new dog, you have to, it may be very cute and so nice, but there may be some undesired behaviors of jumping up and down or barking at every little noise. And so you train the dog and you say, no, don't bark at that. You don't need to. Just leave it alone. Don't jump up on that person. So it's this training, and it's a little bit of discipline, and you're not hurting the puppy. You're actually going to make it more happy, because a dog actually needs some structure, and it thrives in this structure. And so we're training our minds, and it can be on small scales or bigger scales, training the mind to, we all have like kind of a cutoff when we're satiated, when we're full. And so, we can either go past that cutoff and keep eating, or we can say, oh, I'm satiated. I'm completely full, Krishna. I want no more of the beautiful prasad, even though it's so beautiful. I must say this is it for me. And so it's a small victory being able to, even though you want a little more, just saying, no, I'm good for today. Or it can be, turning, we want to kind of be 100% Krishna consciousness. We don't want to just be 80% or 50% or 10%. Like, well, I'm 80% Krishna consciousness. I still watch some of those old movies and things I used to, but 80% is pretty good, or 50% is pretty. It's really that 10% of Maya can really creep in, and it can affect your Krishna consciousness. So we want to even do away with these, even if we're doing very good, if we let that little 10% creep in or whatever it is, it's going to sour the beauty of the Krishna conscious aspect of ourselves. And so we have to be very careful not to degrade ourselves and be aware of this lust. And In chapter 6, Arjuna points out the main difficulty in practicing yoga is controlling the mind. And the hungry mind, uncontrolled mind, just doesn't want to stop, whether it's eating or whether it's angry. It can be insatiable, as we know. And Krishna says that one can overcome the misbehaving mind through constant practice and determination. So that means 100%. And just think of poison. Poison is going to be poison no matter how small the amount. Even small drop of poison can affect your whole life, we tend to, we have this fantastical side of our mind where we imagine things and we can get caught up in that a little bit, even though we may be skeptical at an unrealistic offer. We may see an offer $100 for a brand new car. That's a little too good to be true. But for some reason in our minds, we will make up different fantasies and we will actually more willingly embrace them. If they come from ourselves, we'll say, this is a real, this could really happen. And going on to verse 8. Text, a person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. Purport. Book knowledge without realization of the supreme truth is useless. This is stated as follows. Ata Shri Krishna namadi na bhaved grahyam indriya sevan mukhe hi jivadaya svayam eva spurit yadaha. No one can understand the transcendental nature of the name, form, quality, and pastimes of Shri Krishna through his materially contaminated senses. Only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord are the transcendental name, form, quality, and pastimes of the Lord revealed to him. Padma Purana. This Bhagavad Gita is the science of Krishna consciousness. No one can become Krishna conscious simply by mundane scholarship. One must be fortunate enough to associate with a person who is in pure consciousness. The Krishna conscious person has realized knowledge by the grace of Krishna because he is satisfied with pure devotional service. By realized knowledge, one can become perfect. By transcendental knowledge, one can remain steady in his convictions. But by mere academic knowledge, one can be easily deluded and confused by apparent contradictions. It is the realized soul who is actually self-controlled because he is surrendered to Krishna. He is transcendental because he has nothing to do with mundane scholarship. For him, mundane scholarship and mental speculation, which may be as good as gold to others, are of no greater value than pebbles or stones. This reminds me of the verse, Raja Vijay Rajaguyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Prachashava Gamam Dharmyam Susukam Kartam Avyam. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and is joyfully performed. So, joyfully performed is very nice, being enthusiastic. Shri Shri Gauranitai, Ki Jai, Hare Krishna. Pebbles versus stones. So, how are gold and pebbles and stones all the same? Well, any material object cannot bring happiness. Only a spirituality can bring true happiness. And so, whether it's pebbles, stones, or gold, we can see those things as material objects that can't really bring us any happiness. It's just material objects. It's just cold material. And it's what you do with it. And he says no one... So, mundane scholarship and its spiritual fulfillment comes not from knowledge, but from love. So let's remember not to pursue knowledge for knowledge's sake. There has to be love tied in with it. And verse 9, text 9, a person is said to be still further advanced when he regards all, the honest well-wisher, friends and enemies, the envious, the pious, the sinner, and those who are indifferent and impartial, with an equal mind. And here this describes the Yoga Rudra platform. Just a couple small humorous elements. One time I was doing voice to text on my phone, and I was trying to say attached to sense gratification, and it came up attached to San Francisco vacation. So be careful with voice to text. Also, a small idea I had was we've all had puris and we've all had naan, but I'm trying to be a puri devotee and not a non-devotee. So that's something I'm working on right now. And material is not, it's easy the common misconception might be to, when we hear so much about the material objects and the spiritual objects, spiritual things, and it might be easy to think, okay, material means physical and spiritual means non-physical. And it's not quite that clear cut. There's things, there's physical things that can be material or spiritual, and there's non-physical things that can be material or spiritual as well. Of course, Krishna could make the whole world Krishna conscious with a snap of his fingers, but he doesn't want to. He wants his devotees to be able to do it. His devotees want to do it, and he wants to empower them to do it. And so that is his gift to us. He could easily make everyone Krishna conscious, but he wants to give the credit to his devotees. That's how wonderful he is. He actually wants to build up the devotees and give so much credit to the devotees. So we have to remember he's our coach and he's guiding us, and he wants us to have full success. And Krishna consciousness is actually the final destination in all logical thought. All the philosophers, and they're all pontificating, and that can bring them a lot of happiness, speculating. But all logical thought ends with Krishna, and that is the final destination. And going on to text 14. Next 14. Page number 305. One should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. Purport. The goal of life is to know Krishna, who is situated within the heart of every living being as Paramatma, the four-handed Vishnu form. The yoga process is practiced in order to discover and see this existence. See this localized. The yoga process is practiced in order to discover and see this localized form of Vishnu, and not for any other purpose. The localized Vishnu Murti is the plenary representation of Krishna dwelling within one's heart. One who has no program to realize this Vishnu Murti is uselessly engaged in mock yoga practice and is certainly wasting his time. Krishna is the ultimate goal of life, and the Vishnu Murti, situated in one's heart, is the object of yoga practice. To realize this Vishnu Murti within the heart, one has to observe complete abstinence from sex life. Therefore, one has to leave home and live alone in a secluded place, remaining seated as mentioned above. One cannot enjoy sex life daily at home or elsewhere and attend a so-called yoga class and thus become a yogi. One has to practice controlling the mind and avoiding all kinds of sense gratification, of which sex life is the chief. And the rules of celibacy written by the great sage. So, one can't go to yoga. There's so many people going to maybe gymnastic yoga classes and indulging in these things and calling themselves yogi. And it's clear here that one cannot enjoy sex life daily at home or elsewhere, go to a yoga class and become a yogi. This is so this lust, this sex life, and it's so tough to hear. Maybe you've ever overheard some people talking whimsically about sex life, and it's very disturbing, and it's really animal life. It's really listening to some like dogs and hogs talking, sitting and talking about their enjoying in the mud and enjoying wallowing in the mud. And think about that that famous picture of the dogs playing poker. It's like they're breaking all four regulative principles right there. They're gambling, they're indulging in sex life, intoxication, and gambling. And sex is sacred, and it, yes, is enjoyable. It should be channeled the proper way underneath the proper restrictions of married life for progeny. And in other schools, they don't have that, that caveat. And ISKCON and Bhakti Yoga has made the proper caveat for that, but it must be very controlled. Because when you do have intercourse with someone, you're saying, I wish to have a child with you. I wish to bring a child into this world with you. And it's a very big responsibility to propagate the species. And we all want the future. We all want so much for the future generations. Don't we want them to be happy? Don't we want them to avoid suffering? And I saw this video recently. 12, this anger and this lust, it has to be curbed early, and the child has to be trained from an early age, because we'll have so many unwanted progeny if illicit sex is allowed to continue. There's this video. These children are a little out of control sometimes if they're not disciplined, as they need a little discipline. There was this 12-year-old that got his device taken away, his smartphone. And he pretty much destroyed the whole apartment. It was really kind of sad. Every mirror shattered. The toilet bowl broken into pieces. I mean, it must have taken so long, and I don't know what tools he had, but it's really kind of scary that these will be, the 18-year-olds in 6 years. These will be the adults. And so there's things coming down the line if we don't try to really curb these things. But if you can postpone that drive for pleasure, if you can postpone it, and if you can transfer that pleasure, if you can transfer those feelings, those urges into something powerful and good, that would be very nice. And it takes a little practice, but you do your best, and you're not easy on yourself, but you don't beat yourself up, but you're also not easy on yourself. So it's a combination of, okay, I know what the goal is. I'm going to get back onto my goal, and I'm not going to worry about yesterday, but I'm going to get back on the goal, and I've got a lot of good things going for me. So I'm going to get back on that horse. And that's one of the skills we're developing, that skill to get back on the horse, get back going towards what you know is good. Let's go into text 15. Thus practicing control of the body, mind, and activities, the mystic transcendentalist attains to the kingdom of God, or the abode of Krishna, by cessation of material existence. Purport. The ultimate goal in practicing yoga is now clearly explained. Yoga practice is not meant for attaining any kind of material facility. It is to enable the cessation of all material existence. One who seeks an improvement in health or aspires after material perfection is no yogi, according to Bhagavad Gita. Nor does cessation of material existence entail one's entering into the void, which is only a myth. There is no void anywhere within the creation of the Lord. Rather, the cessation of material existence enables one to enter into the spiritual sky, the abode of the Lord. The abode of the Lord is also clearly described in the Bhagavad Gita as that place where there's no need of sun, moon, nor electricity. All the planets in the spiritual kingdom are self-illuminated like the sun in the material sky. The kingdom of God is everywhere, but the spiritual sky and the planets thereof are called Param Dhamma, or superior abodes. So he says that this always strikes me, there is no void anywhere within the creation of the Lord. That's powerful. That's very powerful. Going on, and then now what about honey? What about flowers and Pushpabana Dimahi, the nectar of honey? What about honey? Honey is so beautiful because it's actually the essence, the nectar and the pollen of hundreds of flowers. One bee will go out for like 90 minutes and it will collect the pollen and nectar from hundreds of flowers. So when you eat honey, you're tasting that nectar of hundreds of flowers. So much nectar is there in Krishna's world. And we read so many verses, and it's like we read so many things and hear so many things, and it's like we're kind of out there fetching nectar, fetching pollen with all these verses, and then we're going to take all these verses and bring it back to the hub and make some honey, and it will be turned into honey. And who knows the story of the garlands on their lordships, Sri Sri Gaur Nitai? Who knows the story behind every one of those flowers that's on the garland itself? Only one person knows that story behind every flower. It could tell you the story. He could tell you the story, and that's Krishna knows the story actually of every flower on each garland. And of course, bees are attracted to honey and very nice things, and flies are attracted to sores and not so nice things. So we want to be like bees. And Prabhupada is so nice because he showed us all how to be, gentlemen and proper, polite people, and because he was the perfect gentleman. And then not only that, but how to transcend that and how to be a Krishna Bhakta. Speaking of Christianity, Prabhupada said that he brought up the point that there's different styles for different people depending on where their consciousness is. The other day I happened to be driving by a small church, and it was a small road, and the door was kind of cracked open, so I could just like African Baptist church, and the doors, so I could hear him, preaching. He's like, you can't do this, you can't do that. The African preachers from Africa, they're very, very strong voiced and very, very commanding, and that's where they're at. That he's speaking to the consciousness where they're at. And one thing about Christianity is they focus so much on the cross. And Prabhupada said that we don't focus so much on the death here, and bringing up the cross actually is kind of a wedge between the Jews and the Christians, because it's a reminder to the Jews, that the Jews killed Christ, so it's a little tough. So we really don't focus so much on death here. We focus on the beauty of life, and we're just growing and growing. One time, Maharaj Danver Goswami told the story of the person picking up the calf. You pick up, if someone, you get a new calf, and if you pick up that calf once a day, your muscles will grow as the calf grows. And so there will be really no point when you can't pick up that calf as it grows into a cow. So that's a beautiful story about almost picking up the impossible thing. It is possible in Krishna consciousness. And went on to verse 16. There's no possibility of one's becoming a yogi or Arjuna if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. Purport: regulation of diet and sleep is recommended herein for the yogis. Too much eating means eating more than is required to keep the body and soul. Grains, vegetables, fruits, and milk. Such simple foodstuff is considered to be in the mode of goodness according to the Bhagavad Gita. Animal food is for those in the mode of ignorance. Therefore, those who indulge in animal food, drinking, smoking, and eating food which is not first offered to Krishna will suffer sinful reactions because of eating only polluted things. So, growing up, I just didn't know that there was actually an instruction manual. And God has his preferences, his actually food preferences of vegetarian diet. No fish, meat, eggs, no onion, no garlic. That's amazing. And so, eggs is one of the reasons we see so much eggs. It's just a cheap filler, And so there's pain involved in these living entities. These chickens that are laying so many eggs, they're experiencing pain and discomfort and unhappiness. And us as a society have said, we will tolerate that because, eggs are so cheap and they're such a great filler. We'll tolerate their discomfort and that's just a chicken. We get so many of them. They don't talk. And so it's so cheap, but we know that there's substitutes for these eggs, garbanzo beans, chia seeds. There's different ways to do egg substitutes. So can't we as a society get past this torture of living entities that allows eggs to be so prevalent around the world? And I just think, on a separate note, Krishna consciousness, I think, is so beautiful because so many, I had no idea, 5-6 years ago that I would be getting to do things like, make garlands or, he actually kind of beautifully tricked me in a way, because I had no idea. And it's just more and more beautiful. And you see, Krishna is a beautiful science. Let me go deeper. And I actually want to be tricked by Krishna in this way. And it's interesting philosophy where, someone that thinks they aren't very elevated is actually, that's the elevated person. And the person that thinks they're elevated is actually not so elevated. So there's some really interesting intricacies. But if you don't feel like you're doing very good, you might be doing very good. So just keep that in mind. And if we get depressed or it might be some transcendental depression, and that might be okay. And I just want to be enthusiastic about Krishna consciousness. And at times, there's times for enthusiasm. There's times, of course, for maybe more graveness. But I really feel like it is an amazing philosophy. Sometimes, do you ever just pinch yourself and say, wow, this is so amazing. It is something fantastical and something so amazing. And, but so real. And Krishna is the master illusionist. He's the master magician. So we can never think we quite know things exactly as they are, except for the way he's told us. If we ever think things are normal and boring in Krishna consciousness, we may not be doing it right, because it's a magical place. This is such a magical place. He's a magical flute player whose flute playing makes rocks vibrate in ecstasy. If that doesn't blow your mind, that's amazing. And with what Srila Prabhupada has given us and what Maharaj has given us, really, who can stop us? With what they've given us, no one can stop us. So we just have to get out of our own way, and really, no one can stop us. So they've really empowered us. So those are a few thoughts. Is there any comments, questions? Jai Keshava, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. Thanks for your nice class, Prabhu. I have one comment at least. I might be able to remember the rest of that I had. But one thing I had to say was about the $100 car you mentioned. And I was thinking, this mentality of thinking, a new car for $100 is related to like the cheating propensity, one of the defects of the mind, like cheating, thinking that I can get something for not working. Mm-hmm. And it's just not how it, material nature works.
Yeah. And we do that in our own fantasies too. We do that. Would you say?
Yeah. That's all I can remember now anyway. Thanks for your class, Prabhu.
Yeah. Yeah, we say this fantasy, this is real, or this, we trick ourselves, we allow ourselves to be tricked by Maya. And when Maya tricks us, Maya is laughing at us, if we allow ourselves to be tricked by Maya, Maya is laughing at us, and she's saying, gosh, if she only knew, he only has to follow the 4 regular principles and chant 16 rounds a day. And I can't touch, untouchable, I can't touch him. So, Hare Krishna. Did you have anything? Bhak, did you? No? Okay. Hare Krishna. Oh, sorry.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you for your nice class. I was just wondering, could you please tell us how to extract the nectar from Shastra? Thank you.
Nectar. How to extract the nectar from Shastra, and using all of your intelligence there's so many things we can do, but reading the purports over and over again, the texts are ever fresh, and you will continue to find new things in them over and over again. And so keep reading the same text over and over again. Keep reading Srila Prabhupada's purports and reading them over and over again, and take notes. If something sticks out, you can take a note. Being able to take good notes. And but these mundane literatures that are not Krishna conscious, they don't hold up to these readings over and over again. It's because Krishna imbued this knowledge, these books, with so much is in here, because it's divine, because only divine can imbue so much into one book. So many connections can be made over time, and one can never it's hard to really feel like we really can master this. So we're continually trying to more and more, and knowing your book very well means looking at the table of contents, and also using your glossary, and being honest with yourself. If something is a little unclear to you in your mind, it's probably unclear to others. And so make it clear in your mind. If something is unclear in your mind, ask an authority or do a little well-guided research, and try to simplify things for yourself a little bit. And using all the tools that our teachers have shown us, and being open to new tools and experimenting, with them. And did you have any other ideas as well yourself, Bhakti Damodar? Did you have any additions to that, possibly?
Yes, Prabhu, thank you for your answer. Yeah, you basically said it. I mean, you just, like anything else, you got to practice. And the only way to practice extracting nectar from Shastra is to read the Shastra. It's like anything else in Krishna consciousness. If you want to extract nectar from chanting the holy name, well, you have to chant the holy name. You practice. If you want to get good at playing basketball, well, you've got to start where you're at and play basketball. Eventually you'll get there. So Krishna consciousness is the same. It's very practical. You just keep practicing, and eventually you'll get there. And under the guidance of the spiritual master and the authorities. If you practice under their guidance, then it's it's 100% sure that you'll get there. If you deviate and think that you can, improvise, or you can come up with some other methods, then it's not guaranteed. But still, an attempt is better than no attempt at all. But yeah, you just practice.
And like you mentioned basketball, when you start your endeavor to play basketball, you want to know that your shot is, you're doing it right. And so we want to make sure that we're doing it right, and then we can feel very confident. And then memorization, sometimes we want to memorize some verses, and just one practical thing, whether it's, printing out a verse and putting it up on the wall, or sometimes I use my voice recorder on my phone, and I will speak the verse, and I'll listen to myself speak it over. And I've got this app where you can like loop things and slow things down. So I'll just maybe I'll work on the first line over and over again and then I'll just kind of like build it up that way. And Hare Krishna, you had something, Prabhu? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thanks for a wonderful class. I just wanted to further emphasize your point about to extract the nectar of the Vedic literature, the emphasis of surrendering to a spiritual master, because with their guidance you can much more quickly attain the understanding of the revelation of the scriptures. And then some other nice ways to extract the nectar are to categorize it into like different subject matters, like the 10 subject matters of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and kind of analyze it through different lenses like that, or the 5 subject matters of the Bhagavad Gita, and kind of looking at each verse and seeing how those different elements are within the verse. Those are a couple things that I'd like to do. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Hare Krishna. And like it says, we do it not just for, we do it with love, and there's no limit to how far we can go with love. So is there anything else? If not, Bhagavad Gita as it is, Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.